everyone, and welcome to the third episode of The Journal. We're webcasting live from Centennial College in Toronto, and I'm your host, Lisa Wright.
And I'm Alessia Peluso. Today on The Journal, we'll be seeing our reporter Jason Jarrett climb walls.
Producer Mikhail Petgrave spent some time with funk artist and music producer Bobby Dreadful.
Plus, our reporter Mike Warner takes a look at the Toronto Islands and talks to island activist and local politician Liz Amer.
Also, reporter Zhou looks in on how immigrants are supported while getting settled in Canada. And another story, Shena, Clyne, producer, looks through the lens of photographer Kareem Ajani.
Should be a really good show, guys. We also have a live performance from indie band Your Heart.
So, Alessia, how good of a rock climber are you?
Oh, I've never really tried it, but Lisa, I don't think I would be any good.
No? Well, our own Jason Jarrett went to Boulder, an indoor rock climbing facility in Toronto, and he spoke to Andrew McBurney on what it's all about while getting a few pointers.
I'm trying to think.
You could just move your hand as if you were like, you know.
Show me where
Just grab stuff.
Oh, this is hard.
Bouldering. Rock climbing at its extreme. When you take steep angles, thin holds, and body positions you think are impossible to do, you sort of get the picture. To experience it though, that's a whole different story. I recently went into Boulder's climbing center and talked to the owner, Andrew McBurney, to learn more about bouldering and to experience it firsthand.
Bouldering is climbing on walls or boulders outside with no rope. Bouldering is unique more because you can go in any direction. You can climb sideways, you can climb down sometimes. You do movements in bouldering that you don't see in most rock climbing with the rope because you're able to move in any direction. We opened on December 14th, 2008, so that makes us 10 months old. We've been running some programs for our kids, and we've been having lots of experienced climbers and adults coming to our facility to train and to get better at bouldering for various reasons, either to improve their rock climbing or just to have fun or get strong, stay in shape.
If you're new to the climbing scene, you're probably wondering, what's up with all the colors? Well, with most rock climbing centers, each climb route is labeled according to its difficulty.
Well, we mark the routes at this facility with the colored tape, so yellow is generally the easiest route that you can find in here. Boulder problem or route would be taped yellow if it's easy, and then as the colors change, the difficulty of the routes goes up as well. So we would like to keep black as the hardest. That's sort of standard. Well, some of the things that are unique to bouldering terminology is spotting. So spotting is when you actually use your hands to help a climber land safely. So if they're falling down and maybe they're going to fall onto their back, or they're going to put their hand out and maybe risk injuring their wrist, but if you can help steady them with your hands, you just put your hands up and sort of guide them to the ground a little bit so they're more controlled. Beta is a thing that people throw around a lot, that word. Beta is basically when another climber is giving you information about how to do a certain route or how to do a certain movement. They're giving you help. It's like a teaching. So when you give someone beta, you're giving them information or knowledge.
Once you hit this blue, you gotta turn around, swing your feet over, and then the rest of the climb is like this until you get to the yellow. Okay. So your hand's gonna start here. You're gonna grab on to the next one.
For my first go, I decided to use any holds rather than stick to a specific route, just to be sure I knew what I was doing. Now that I covered the basics, I feel ready. I feel confident. It's climb time.
Alright, I'm gonna spot you as you go, so if you fall down, I'm just gonna help you control your leg. Alright, sounds good.
Bouldering is as much its own form of climbing as it is a way of training as well for rock climbing. So people will use bouldering to increase their power. Power takes a really long time to build. And if you try to push that too fast, you tend to get injured, which you see happening a lot. But if you want to get stronger and better at climbing, bouldering is the fastest way to do that.
I found that a little too easy for me, so I tried yellow only this time, but I really was looking for something to test my muscles, build my strength.
Bouldering develops your hand strength a lot. It develops your technique. You can work on anything you want to. It's a very flexible type of training. there isn't any one thing that's going to determine physically, that's going to determine whether or not you do well. But obviously a strong upper body, like a good shoulder strength and good abdominal and core strength is really important for climbing as well.
How's that? Nice.
Yellow tape beaten, and I still haven't broke a sweat. I mean, it put a little stress on my muscles, but it just left me hungry for more. So I searched for a challenge, which I successfully found.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, keep going. Swing your feet over there.
Leg stretch.
Okay.
And here I am thinking an athletic guy like me could easily take these routes. I mean, attempt after attempt, I was barely getting anywhere. Sure, the holds were slim and the technique tricky, but I felt there was an underlying reason for all this.
There's so many different mental challenges. There's challenges of your ego as well that a lot of people deal with, and myself included, of course. and there's just there's so many different mental aspects to the sport. I mean, it's like any other sport. The more you can be in control of all those facilities, then the better off you are. I try to focus on the fun aspect of climbing, and that sort of cancels out a lot of the other stuff like around fear and ego and confidence. If you're having fun, then you're probably not too worried about most of those things.
All right, guys, I don't know what to say. I mean, I tried rock climbing today, and bouldering is just getting at me. I mean, the walls keep coming, and I keep climbing, but they just keep throwing me down. But I'm still going. I'm still going at it. Like, I know I can do this. But that's enough for me. This has been the Journal. Jason Jarrett for Boulder.
Wow, that was a really intense workout.
I know, mentally and physically. I mean, climbing a wall without any support and hanging upside down, that's awesome. Not for me, but awesome.
Sit tight, guys. We still have a lot more coming up on the Journal, including live performance, first of 2 of them from Your Heart. Keep it on play. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Journal. Celestia, you're a music fan, right?
Obviously. Why are you asking?
Well, I don't know. If you like reggae, funk, fusion, you'll for sure like our next story.
For sure. Our reporter Mikhail Petgrave spent a day with funk artist Bobby Dreadful and his band, the Breastfed Superheroes. He tagged along with them as they prepared a show in the Great White North. Check it out, guys.
Hey, what's happening, man? This is Bobby Dreadful. Thanks for having me on the Journal. Today you can check out some of my behind-the-scenes clips and some of our show clips from Sudbury, Ontario. Check it out. I was born in Toronto, Ontario, to a Jamaican father, white Canadian mother. I've been singing and dancing since I was a little kid. My first instrument was the violin. I used to take the violin, Suzuki method, in grade 1. Me and my friend would sit up by the 7-Eleven and I would play Twinkle Little Star. And then he would say, please contribute. And so I remember one day we made like $13 just off of like people giving us spare change. So I think that was the beginning of my musical career.
Maybe y'all could repeat after me. It goes a little
She said, ba 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 dee. Ba 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 dee. You got me on my knees. Got me on my knees. She said, ba ba ba. It's really cool though in terms of like the fact that it's very multicultural. You know, we've got Cuban percussion, Mexican drummer, guitar player from Chicago. You know, so we got a Guyanese trumpet player. It's pretty multicultural. Who's in our drums? We got Joaquin Nunez, Hidalgo. You know, he was in Dirty Dancing and plays with everyone from Diana Krall to whoever. We got that new Marlon Pennant on bass. He was a monster. Nick C and me, I think we've known each other since I was in grade 7. So that's been a while.
Bananas. Crazy. Bobby Dreadful invades. Sudbury's not ready for this. This baby.
You know, you can't get around rehearsing, that's for sure. I find the more we rehearse, the better it all gets, right? The vibes between musicians get better. The songs obviously sound a lot better. New ideas get born.
What's up, yo? Ready for rehearsal? Nice. Man on bass, playing bass. Usually we got Yosu Rodriguez, but he just had a baby, so you know, we're giving him what do you call it, maternity leave.
When I first started this, I had a group of musicians maybe who weren't quite up to the to the levels that we needed, and you would find it would become frustrating quite often, you know. But yeah, no matter what, you know, you're dealing with people with different personalities and different, you know, not everyone hears what you're hearing. Everyone's got their own vision. You know, sometimes my guitar players, for example, they really like to rock stuff out, you know, loud. And I mean, I appreciate it, but there's always a spot, you know. Sometimes you're trying to rock out like just a nice soul song, you know, kind of, it's like scratching, you know, your fingernails down the chalkboard, but we work it out.
Yeah, man, we're on the road, yo, so check it out. It's gonna be a long trip, but we're excited, you know what I mean? We're hoping this weather clears up a little though, you know. Got some cold rain falling.
Yeah, beautiful scenery, man. We got that limestone granite or whatever it's called. I'm not even sure, but yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful to see, man. I think we almost hit a deer coming back, but luckily we saw it in time. Yeah. Sudbury that night was very rainy, very cold. So I think unfortunately we didn't get as ram up as we wanted, but those who did make it through the snow and sleet, yeah, man, they were crazy hype. Really enthusiastic crowd. I think my band was extremely tight. They always step up their game when it comes to the show. That night was cool because I think we had a breakdancing contest. And I don't think there was many professional breakdancers in the crowd. The more a crowd reacts to me, the more I'll give to them, you know what I mean? You just can't help it, right? And yeah, so it definitely helps to have a nice enthusiastic group. Even if it's a small group, you know, if they're hyping into your thing, it'll work. I think for the most part, I'm thinking about the song, you know, just thinking about the song. I'm thinking about actually feeling the song and when you feel it, projecting, portraying it, you know what I mean? Letting people feel it, letting them see or feel or hear what it is, the song is, how you interpret it. Yeah, so you know, I'm thinking about my moves on stage. I'm thinking about the band. Are they listening to me? Does everyone know where we're at? Just enjoying the music, you know, getting into it. Yeah, there's a million things. It's hard for me to immediately be critical or not, you know what I'm saying, after a show. But you definitely are aware of certain things, you know, if there were huge mistakes, Like I think we have a song that's really new to everybody called Welcome to Stay. And I think sometimes when we go into the chorus of that song, it could be iffy, you know? So things like that, you know, you try and remember for next rehearsals too. For Bobby Dreadful. Well, we are almost finished the new album. It's going to be called Wonderful World, so I'm really happy about that. Do it again. We always have a good crowd in Sudbury, enthusiastic bunch, and yeah, I mean it gets cold, so you know someone got to bring the heat.
It's always interesting to see the inside life of the artist. I think sometimes you forget how much work actually goes into creating these shows.
I know, for sure. And especially like an artist like Bobby Dreadful, his band is like such high energy. You have to give it your all every time.
I know. I love the name of the band, by the way.
I know, it is pretty interesting. Anyway, we all know how hard it could be settling into a new place. Whether you're moving out for the first time or you're coming to a new city, putting your life in order could be extremely hard, especially if you're immigrating from another country.
Reporter Leo Zhou met with Barbara Zhang, who came to Canada only a few short years ago and has made a life for herself helping people deal with the same situations that she went through.
Before Barbara Zhang came to Toronto 4 years ago, she was a computer teacher in China. It's always hard being a newcomer and not being able to speak the language. She found it hard to know what to do. Now Barbara is a settlement counselor, a career she chose so she could help see people through the same situation she experienced.
I think most of the new immigrants, when they come here, they have the same problem too. So that's why, you know, the people, they want to come to us and ask any questions they want. And it's free.
Okay. No, she said I can hang up the phone and she will call you probably. Okay, bye.
Barbara's job has two main parts. The first one is one-on-one counseling with individual clients. Basically, she provides settlement services to individual clients. If newcomers are having problems that they don't know how to deal with, they can come to her for support and information. Sometimes, if the situation is desperate, she provides counseling, also helping them get social assistance, employment, insurance, and citizenship. The second part is workshop facilitation. Every month, Barbara and her co-workers facilitate and organize at least one workshop for their clients. For example, they help newcomers understand children's social benefit in Canada, or understand community involvement in training and employment opportunities in non-profit organizations.
We would like to give some information, for example, how to get a job, what is the labor market information about, like some issues related to family, to kids, to the education. For example, like how to apply for OSAP. I think, you know, lots of immigrants, they come here, they want to get the education, but maybe they are consider about their financial, you know, situation. They need maybe other support from the government or from the school.
有一次我在参加讲座的时候呢，就是芭芭拉是主讲人，我觉得她这个人呢特别上进。 特别这个思维特别好，而且呢，这个就是服务态度啦，各方面也都挺好。就通过这次讲座，我们就认识了。以后呢，我有一些个问题啊，有一些困难啦，我也经常向他来咨询。所以现在我们成了一个好朋友。
I think I really understand them. That's why I'm here and as a settlement counselor to provide service to newcomers, because I understand their situation. And I think I'm able to help them to go through this period of time to build a better life in Canada.
It's amazing that after so little time, Barbara now works helping people who went through the same things that she did.
Definitely. I mean, I can't even imagine going through that kind of transition. I think I'll just stick to my monthly trips to Cuba.
Monthly trips?
Well, maybe not that many, but the second I get a chance, I'm there. But for all of you still watching, stay tuned because there's still a lot more to come on
The Journal. And we're back on the journal. In case you guys didn't know, the journal is produced by broadcasting and film students studying at Centennial College in Toronto. We're just finishing our second year here in school.
Yeah, that's right. And the show is entirely produced of a class of 14 people. And everyone in that class produces 2 stories and participates in the overall production of the story. But anyways, later we've got a really great artist coming up, and I'm excited for the band.
I know, you do sound excited.
I am. And I know that for sure. I love them. Their stuff was awesome. I heard their stuff the other day, and I couldn't get over it. I loved it.
Okay, Lisa, you have to continue your excitement a little longer. Because first we need to figure out who exactly the Toronto Islands belong to.
That's right. There's been a 40-year debate between residents at Metro Parks Department over who this property really belongs to.
Our reporter Mike Warner set out to the Island Ferry to talk to a longtime resident who's been living there through it all.
The Toronto Islands are unlike any other part of Toronto. From the fact that they are only accessible by boat, to the banning of all motorized vehicles not required for service. Join me today as we learn a little more about a true Toronto landmark, the Toronto Islands. Despite only being accessible by boat, the island does possess a community of homes which just as easily could not have existed today. The island community reached its peak around the 1950s when it was made up of some 630 cottages and homes. In addition to established businesses including a movie theater, a bowling alley, a grocery store, hotels, and dance halls. The reason Toronto Island's community peaked in the early 50s was because of the creation of Metropolitan Toronto Council, which undertook an initiative to remove the community and replace it with parkland. The construction of the Gardiner Expressway had removed many acres of parkland from along the Toronto waterfront. The island's land was allocated to replace it. In 1955, the city transferred the island land to the Metro Parks Department, which began to demolish the homes of leaseholders that had given up their leases or those whose leases had expired. By 1963, all island residents willing to leave had gone, and those remaining began to fight the Parks Department's plan to remove their homes. After nearly 40 years of legal battles, the Toronto Island community was rewarded when the Government of Ontario passed the Toronto Islands Residential Community Stewardship Act, which allowed island residents to purchase 99-year land leases from a corporation known as the Land Trust. Elizabeth Amer has been a Toronto Island resident for more than 40 years and is personally familiar with the history of the island involving the Metro Parks Department and the 99-year land leases.
When the regional municipal government, Metropolitan Toronto, was created in the mid-50s, it took over the island from the City of Toronto as a park. It was actually the only park that they had. The Parks Commissioner of the day, Tommy Thompson, decided that you couldn't have a park with houses in it, notwithstanding the fact that this park had houses, and that the two had been quite harmonious and complementary. No one was really aware of any conflict between the uses. He decided, oh no, this will all have to be cleared away. And why did he decide to do that? Well, I'm sure I don't know, except that it was the 50s. Planning of the day was not very progressive in the sense that it didn't value mixed use, either mixed land use in the sense that you would have parks and people, parks and residential together in harmony. And it wasn't that people didn't fight; they did fight, but there wasn't a real tradition of fighting City Hall in the 50s. And, we hadn't experienced stopping Spadina, saving Union Station. I mean, when I tell you that the City of Toronto was going to tear down Union Station, you can't even believe that today. You think, what? But that's the sort of thing that was going on, and it wasn't until more progressive people were elected that this was stopped, and people began to realize you don't tear down your history. Yeah, the cliche was you can't fight City Hall. Well, today we can fight City Hall, and we can win. But we lost a hell of a lot before we won. And we were able to save the houses on Ward's Island, the houses on Algonquin Island, and some along the lake shore up to a point. In 1995, we signed a 99-year lease on all of our lots, and we're vested in ownership of the houses. We had always owned the houses, but due to various legal technicalities, Metro claimed to own them at a certain point. You know, it's our land. We've got valid writs of possession for the land, and you know, your house, if you want to keep your house, move it off the land because it's our land. If you don't move it, the house becomes ours. So that was the position. And so we had to be vested with ownership of the houses by the provincial government when it decided that the houses should stay. When Metro took over, it was 1952. When we signed the 99-year lease, it was 1995. So that's a long fight.
Today, island homeowners are saddled with many rules and regulations in owning their homes. Among them, homeowners may not pass on their homes to anyone other than their immediate family. If homes are not passed on to spouses or children, islanders can't choose to whom they'll sell their homes. Sales are regulated by the Island Trust, which oversees a public list where buyer and seller never meet. As well, under the signed lease, islanders are required to occupy their homes for a minimum of 220 days per year and must designate them as their principal residences. Island living, however, is not without its perks. In addition to being a small and close-knit community, the island is incredibly beautiful. It is full of parks, beaches, and clubs. And despite its small size, it still boasts 2 cafe restaurants. When you're out on the island, you can literally smell just how clean the air is. A lot of this has to do with the fact that you won't see a lot of these. The island is one of the largest pieces of land in the world where motorized vehicles are banned if not required for some kind of service. Biking is the major form of transportation. The Toronto Islands are truly one of Toronto's landmarks, and any mainlanders who have not yet made the trip out should definitely do so as soon as possible. I'm Mike Warner, and thanks for watching.
Wow, it would be really cool to live on that island. I mean, it must be pretty hard for those residents who waited so long to secure their leases.
I know, I guess it's one of just those quiet battles that nobody really hears about unless they're really involved.
Or, of course, unless you're watching the journals.
Well, we've hit the point in the show that I know that Lisa's been waiting for.
Exactly. I'm so excited. So Your Heart is a Toronto-based band indie group who just released a remix compilation of their new debut album, Summer.
They describe their sound as unicorns exploding from pomegranates. So here to show us just what that sounds like, Your Heart.
So
great that you're here. It's definitely a unique sound. How did you guys get started?
I've been playing music my whole life. I met up with these guys and asked them if they wanted to play some of my songs, and thankfully they said yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So where do you get the inspiration for your music?
Mostly this girl I know, who is my wife.
Okay.
And
this girl you know.
Yeah. I know her like kind of
your
well.
wife.
But yeah, so I write a lot of songs about her, and then I write a lot of songs about fictional things that come to me in dreams and.
That's really good. That's awesome. Why did you guys decide to name your band Your Heart?
So we could say "Listen to Your Heart" and have a little.
There's meaning to this. That's good. Can you tell me a little bit about your remix, your album, or the compilation?
Yeah. Well, so we did a couple months ago. We put out an album, and it's called Summer, and we want to do one for every season this year. So we're working on autumn right now, and it's almost done. And the remix thing is the latest thing we kind of put out there, and it's just remixes from that first album, and it's got a lot of cool like 8-bit sounds. Like a couple people worked on these remixes, and they use like Game Boys and stuff like that to I don't know, make cool sounds.
No,
so
that's very cool. It's not just the three of you. There's 5, right?
Yeah, we're 5-piece. So there's a bass player and another guitar player who are like at work or something right now.
Yeah, how'd you guys like come together? Were you all friends?
We all met each other at church, actually.
Oh, that's really nice. Well, that's good. Well, thank you guys. This was really awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, guys, up next, reporter Shena Clyne takes a close look up through the lens of photographer Kareem Ajani. Kareem's work has graced the cover of magazines and newspapers alike. He found the time in his busy schedule to let the journal into his life and work. Check it out.
Is this okay?
Oh, shit, man.
Hi, I'm Kareem Ajani, and I am a photographer. Well, I own a camera and I take photos, whichever one you want to call me. I've been doing this since 2005. It's been about 4 years now, roughly, and it's been a good journey. Had quite a few work published. The Sway Magazine, Urbanology, Toronto Sun, 24, Metro. We did the Caravana Magazine. Various CD covers for artists, a lot of promo stuff, a lot of advertising, and it's been good. At the beginning, it was a little bit challenging because obviously when you're not that good and you ask people to be your subject, they kind of laugh at you. So, you know, you face a lot of rejection at first. So I was shooting mainly friends and friends of friends and just trying to craft my own skill because I did teach myself. And it started to get better. So I remember the first photo shoot I did was with a friend of mine, and I was on this photography forum, and I thought the photo was great. And they pretty much killed it, critiqued it to the bitter end, and it just inspired me to want to learn more. So, you know, I got out books, I asked a lot of questions, I practiced a lot, bought my own equipment, and just kept shooting. The mistakes you make, sometimes you often either scrap it or you refine it and make it your own style. And I just kind of kept progressing and kept learning that way. And every time I come across new styles and other people's work that inspires me, I just try to integrate it and try to incorporate it in what I do personally. I definitely want to progress more and get better, obviously. I want to do work that is more meaningful and memorable. I'm not gonna say the stuff I've done in the past is not, it's just I think it's been kind of lazy. So I do plan to expand that and shoot different things, as well as be more concept driven. Still kind of, you know, the same style, maybe infuse it with others and just work with more talented people. I love to work with new people all the time, and you know, a new person's hunger always regenerates your own. So I always look forward to that.
You know, I met him maybe about almost a year now, I think. You know, he's inspired me to become a photographer, you know, seeing his work, open in teaching me, and you know, he's given me a lot of, you know, what's that word? Giving me that opening to photography, because I just started recently, so I'm new to the game. But you know, in the time that I've been doing it, I think that because of him and many others, I've gotten to where I am in my photography.
When I'm taking an actual shot, I look at angles, I look at lighting. Lighting is very important to me. I look at expression, I look at posture, I look at fine details. It always helps to have a good team around you as well because they can see things that you might not see.
I've worked with Kareem on numerous shoots. Basically, I really like Kareem's style, overall how he handles things. And he brings his own personal touch to everything he does. Everything from the way he shoots, the way he directs the model. He's very laid back about it, which is great for compared to other photographers that are very generally very quiet and they don't give much direction to the model. And I find that he has his own flair when he shoots. And that obviously is very visible in his work. And it's obviously that Kareem loves what he does. So
I do my own photo retouching, the post-processing. And I think it's important for photographers to do their own because, again, it's your interpretation of your own work. So if you allow someone else to do it, it almost doesn't become yours. At the end of the day, this is who I am, and I think who I am as a person reflects in the work that I do. So I'm not ashamed of it, and I embrace it. Continue to shoot the same way. Just try to get better in terms of lighting, in terms of angles, in terms of composition, the more technical stuff. So you can definitely check out my work at my website, www.kareemajani.com. That's KareemAjani.com. And yeah, check out my blog too. It's kind of full of nonsense, but I sometimes put things I do, so passes time. And you could also check me out on Facebook, MySpace, Model Mayhem. What else? Just Google me. Straight up.
Making a name for yourself as a photographer must be really hard.
For sure. But you know what? Kareem seems to be doing pretty well for himself. True inspiration is hard to come by.
He's definitely one to keep an eye on. Well, guys, we've reached the end of our show, but be sure to check in 2 weeks. To play us off the air once again, please welcome Your Heart.
Thanks for joining us. See you in 2 weeks. And remember to keep it on play right here on The Journal.
Dreaming, perfect summer air that we are breathing, wheat stalks in the sun, always gleaming. Will you stay with me? Will you be my love? Give me your hand to hold. Will you stay with me? Will you be my love? Among the fields of gold. Failed. I'm dreaming, perfect summer air that we are breathing, wheat stalks in the sun, always gleaming. Will you stay with me? Will you be my love? Give me your hand to hold. Will you stay with me? Will you be my love? Among the fields of gold, will you stay?